Morning, everyone. 2nd of February, and 7 o'clock here in the evening, Hobart, and 9 o'clock in Les Arbes-de-Long. A few things going on. We're spread out right across the bottom of the Pacific here, and Simon's doing okay. We'll talk about Abolish. I'm not sure where he's going, but for now, the challenges with Guy. You may have seen the post. A couple of, well, a bit over an hour ago, Guy reported in that he'd suffered a pretty heavy knockdown, and the life raft, which is stored just after the cockpit on the back deck, was lost overboard. He didn't see it inflate, but inside the life raft is a PLB, and he's quite okay. He's making no bones about it. It's quite heavy going at the moment. The seas are pretty horrific. And he's not requesting any assistance. He's plodding along. He's obviously running before it right now. We've increased his tracker for hourly at the moment. Now that he doesn't have a life raft, so we'd like to know where he is. And 7 o'clock position. It'll roll over again in a minute, but he's making 3.4 knots. He ain't got much up. Not reporting any damage to the boat at all, so that's a good thing. And he's in control. So weather-wise, I'm just going to chop over and just position-wise, just so you can see where he is. From Hobart right now, he's around about 640 miles away. And without a life raft, he hasn't declared what his intentions are later on. For now, it's just get through this storm and work out what he does. But may very well end up going to Hobart to get another life raft or something. Who knows? And we'll come over and I'll show you what's going on with the weather. So this is basically the windy weather. It's a little bit more accurate. It's the ECMWF model. Just of interest, just to see what the other models are suggesting as well. I'll just push that in. Very similar. The GFS is similar. He's right in the thick of it at the moment. These are wind forecast, not gust forecast. He's showing 41 knots there. And they're all the models are pretty much showing the same. So what he's got is probably pretty real right now. And then if we go into wind gusts, you'll see there's sort of 60 knots there. And even with these models, when it's saying 60 knots, it can be peaking 70 or more. It can be quite extreme. The good news is that whatever he's got now, the sea state is established. So when the knockdown happened a couple of hours ago, things were sort of still moving overhead. Maybe it's partly setting up the boat. It's a combination of there will be two seas running. If we look at the seas, forecasting 9.5 metres, so that means it's entirely likely he's getting 12 metres or more. But the good news is, I say, that we're not expecting another wind shift. So now that he's set up, hopefully it'll maintain that situation, and he'll be able to keep sit tight and make the most of it. In terms of then what's the speed line, if we look at this, what's the timeline for it to go over him? I'll click it through every hour, and you'll see it's going to be quite a while yet. So this is at 0800 Zulu, and every one of these is an hour. 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, it's all moving north. He's going with it a little bit, so he'll track with that and hold it. But it's, there's 12 hours, so it's going to be like at least another 18 hours or so before this starts to back off. He'll go through the night. There's daylight there at the moment. It'll start to get dark in about 4 hours or so, and he'll go with that. But even there, the sea state back down to 3-4 metres. So that's going to be about another 18 hours yet before he'll see a marked difference in exactly what's going to happen for that one. Anyway, there's in these situations, the good news is the communications are good. He's okay. He sounded positive, and we've called a code orange. What that means is we just monitor the situation. We've notified Rescue Coordination Centre in Grisnez, which is our primary rescue centre in France, because we originate the race from France. They know what's going on. The PLB was lost. We also notify MRCC in UK, because Guy is registered in the UK. So the PLB, they've got all the hex codes in case it pops up. And then, of course, we deal with MRCC here in Australia, because they're the immediate coordination centre. So we've, and as I say, I'm stressing, Guy doesn't need any help. He doesn't request anything, but we now just monitor everything, and we're on standby in case anything comes up in the meantime. and he's got plenty of good comms, and so he's happy. He's sort of, and we're all feeling for him. It's not much fun, but that's what you sign on for sometimes, I suppose. And he's done it all before in other boats, so let's just see. We're all thinking of him and wishing him well. Okay, so moving right along here. And looking at the other challenges of the guys. So Ian is we went through the weather. I rotated the weather on Guy before so you can see what's going on there. So Ian doing pretty well, 4.5 knots, 57 miles in the last 24 hours. Not a lot of wind, but he's still moving. And Jeremy's the one that's got the challenges because he's got this northern, he's got to get around the Bounties, doing 3.7 knots, just climbing away from it. I'll just build that up so you can see what happens here. I've had a few people asking about what happens with Chichester. You can maybe see his course there zigging away. If he were to miss that class, there's a sort of a concept here that even though you're in Chichester, it's very hard for us to give him penalties because they're not in the rankings. But, it's a bit of an obligation to maintain the course. The same with Simon. He's got to go back and sail around Cape Horn. He can't just go through Panama and come back and say he did it. So as a Chichester class, you've still got to maintain the course. Jeremy knows that. And he is working hard to make sure he can get around. So it's a bit of a challenge, but again, that's the nature of what it is. There's a fair bit of wind there. He'd be getting 30, gusting 35, and the sea state probably 5 meters, 4 or 5 meters. Yeah, there's 5 meters there. You can see some funny little interactions here if you get onto this site yourself. There's some sort of a wave confusion there going on, which could be currents. That could be partly driven by some of the currents. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, but it's looking okay. So cloud cover, he should know where he is. No cloud there, so he's staying clear. And let's see what happens to the clouds. See if he can get a fix. Yeah, it's going to clear as it goes further to the north, and then the northwest. It'll clear and he'll get a proper position. But even working his DR, he'll know he's getting around that. So steady as she goes. I think that's his game plan there. I'll just shoot this back and we'll look at what's going to happen with their weather going forward. And okay, we'll come forward a day, near enough, and it gets a lot better. So 24 hours time, it's a lot more moderate. It'll be back to 18 knots, 22 knots, something like that, and he'll start sailing again. Ian might get left behind again. There's not a lot of breeze there, so that's one day, and next day, pretty good. Ian won't like that. He doesn't like going to windward, but Jeremy should be fine by then. He's on a roll, so that's cool. And yeah, that's pretty much that for that one. And Goog, I don't want to say it, Goog's standing very boring. Everything's going too well. Touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. But he's got a good sailing breeze, and no challenges yet there because he knows where the zone is. 5.9 knots, 147 miles a day. He just keeps ticking them over. So that's pretty cool. And by tomorrow, more of the same on the 3rd. By the 4th, more of the same. And the 5th, okay, oh no, he'll be over here by then. So, yep, happy days for Goog. That's about all I can say. He won't be complaining. He's just ticking along, so doing okay. Now, this is kind of interesting what's going on here, especially with Kirsten and Abelish. This is the new position, 8 o'clock. He's looking a bit more reasonable, but Abelish was absolutely cutting across this system, which was really surprising. He's very keen to get down because that's quite solid. He's been reaching across waves which are probably, 5 metre waves, and the wind, there's probably 35 knots there, but he was absolutely cutting across it. Would have been quite wet and windy, so that tells me he's definitely back racing now. And he's on the hunt. They all know what's going on. So Kirsten doing 7.2 knots, 151 miles in a day. She's just coming out the back of this little weak bubble here. She would have got a boost there. If that's correct, it should be reasonably correct. And Abelish, 6.5 knots, 143 miles a day. So that's pretty reasonable. I'll bring Simon in the picture. He's doing well, 6 knots. He might have been hand steering during this time, although it must be getting dark over there by now. So anyway, whatever he's doing, he's making pretty reasonable time, closing the coast. Claire, his wife's getting ready to fly out with parts, so everything's looking okay for now. And we'll just go forward a day on the weather here. You can see it's backing off for Kirsten, or she'll keep driving that, and Abelish will be down here as well. They've got nice breezes, picking up for Simon. So that's okay. Another day here, come through to the 3rd and the 4th. Couple of days, picks up again there. No big storms, that's more of the same. They'll both be down here. Simon's getting a bit of a run. We talked about that before. It's going to help him get across. So all is looking pretty fair and dandy here at the moment. So that's really about it. There's distances. I'll give you some distances now just to put it into perspective. From Cape Horn, I think that's a reasonable game plan here. We'll go boom, to Kirsten. So Kirsten to Cape Horn is 1,500 nautical miles, near enough. And then if we come back and we'll just see what the split is for both of them. Come on. Just with Abelish and Kirsten here. Okay, so let's just go there, see what the break is. That's pretty much the rum line. So Kirsten's got a break of about 200 miles, near enough to 200 miles, which is healthy, but they're after each other. And then Gug, not doing too bad. He's from Abelish, he's 1,100 miles from Abelish. That's pretty good. No complaints there either. So, and Simon's got, about 400 miles or something to go for, 500 miles. So, all good. Thank you very much. We're thinking of Guy, and we'll keep you updated, and we'll look forward to seeing him coming out the back end of the other blow.